Here you go, Trev. Let's go.
All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Hockey Toolkit, Season 2, Episode 15. We are here to party. I am joined by my co-hosts,
Andrew Trimble.
and we got an interesting episode for you folks. We did it, first of all. Well, I didn't do it. Coach Trimble did it.
I can't take all the credit.
You got him on the show. We've got Mason Hackel from Train 2.0. We had an interview with him. And we'll get to that later. But yeah, we got him. We're trying to get people on. So interesting people, and it was interesting for sure. But Coach, how's life been? We're past the playoffs. We're past the opening of free agency. What's going on in your life? What's going on in the NHL? What do you want to talk about?
So we got a lot of stuff going on, right? We had the finals finished. We both predicted the Panthers. Obviously, we won. We get no credit for that, but we predicted it. We would have made a ton of money had we put our money where our mouth is, but we didn't get shit. So,
thanks a lot.
And then we proceeded to. I've been on a bunch of camps now. I was out in Colorado Springs for a little bit. Back here now in New Hampshire. Trevor, you're done with spring hockey. You're done with that, right?
Yeah, that's been gone for a while. Now I'm doing my summer skates. So I've got doing one of those a week just for kids that are interested. Like I talked about last episode, and it's not tryouts, it's not recruiting skates. It's just whoever wants to come out in a certain berth year throughout our club. I don't care who. Actually, I've got kids from other clubs coming out that are. I know that I basically said I'm not recruiting, and that makes it sound like I'm recruiting, but I'm not. It's just kids that I've worked with last summer too that are interested. So, yeah, that's all I'm really up to with that. And actually, I lied. Today was the scheduling grids came out. So my phone has been blowing up constantly, either emails, phone calls, or texts from other team managers looking to schedule games. And luckily this year, I didn't have to do it. I've got someone within our club. I think she is the team manager's liaison. She's doing it for me, and she's doing a fantastic job. So Mimi, if you're listening, thank you very much. Because that is a headache, and I don't ever want to have to do it again. So. But yeah, that's about it, really. Scheduling, that's the highlight.
All right. Delegating is the key to success, right? If you want to grow what you're doing, you got to be able to delegate. So good job, Trev.
Well, I mean, she asked, so I took her up on it, and yeah, I've been pretty happy with it. But
we got a similar situation with our new host family coordinator. I've had a couple of different host families recruiters with the Wolves, and then we left USA Hockey. We didn't have to have an independent different person other than the team owner. So I was doing it for a couple of years. Yeah. Then we got a new lady, Tammy McKenzie. She's fantastic. And she's getting us some new host families and some new housing. Because you go through different cycles. It is a tough job, but our kids will be in good places come when they arrive here in about a month and a half. So we're going to be upon hockey season before we know it.
Yeah, no, it's like I just said, it's a tough job. I mean, I know when I was out in Rochester, I forgot who was doing it when I went out there for one camp and got to meet her. And I mean, she was on it. She was on her game, and I think she was even just a volunteer. And I was just like, man, you were here. But they were passionate for the team out there. So not that you don't have it, and with the Wolves, but it's a tough gig. How was the? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Trevor. I'm sorry.
How was the USA camps?
That was really great. It's at USJDP camp in Colorado Springs. It moved from last couple of years. It's been in Denver. Actually, like for 20 years, it was in Denver. Then they moved it this past year to Ed Robson Arena in Colorado Springs, and the facilities there. It's brand new rink. It's fantastic. Like it seats, I'm going to say between 5,000 and 7,000 at most 8,000, but it's like first class up and down facility. So, right in the shadow of Pikes Peak. I've never seen that before, so that was kind of cool to cool. Be there in Colorado Springs. Yeah, it's beautiful, crazy beautiful area. Actually, I didn't know when I went out there. I was like, how many people live in Colorado Springs? All I knew it from was from the movie Miracle at the beginning when they film the tryouts there.
Right.
But like 500,000 people live in Colorado Springs. I had no idea.
Yeah,
I thought it was just like a small little town.
Did you get to venture out and actually go and you said the Pikes Peak? Did you get to see any more of it? Because every time I'm out there, it's for the global CCM. And I've never gone actually for a vacation, which I want to do. And as I'm
No, that
driving to the rink, we always get to look out the window and see all the mountains and stuff. And I'm like, oh, damn it. So,
yeah, I didn't really venture out too much. I know I probably should have, but this year's schedule, you normally have 2 groups. This year we had 3. So I was on the ice more. I
oh,
was on the
wow.
ice for like some days. I don't even know, but like felt like 4 hours some days. And then, you got seminars and workouts and different things. So I was on the ice a lot more this year than previous years, but it's all good. I get to interact with some great coaches and have a lot of fun. So no complaints on that end.
That's awesome.
Now we got some
What else?
big we got
I was
some
about
big
to
news
say,
though. We should
what else
dive
is
in,
going on in your
Trev.
world right now?
You wrote a great you wrote a great article actually when I was out there in Colorado. You wrote a great article about the EHL versus USPHL. We had another article posted today on the Hockey Focus about um, what's going on and comparing and contrasting the leagues and what that's going to look like in the next year, or how the leagues are going to shake out. What are some of the feedback you've been getting from this defection from the EHL into the NCDC? The news that the NCDC will at least have some part of its league be a pay-to-play, self-defined Tier 2 league. What has been your feedback in the Midwest?
I mean, just in general, not many people are really too concerned about it right now in the Midwest because really we don't have any NCDC teams. I think the closest NA team I have to us is up in Janesville. So really we don't have a lot of tier two teams. Though it wouldn't surprise me now if they start turning some of these USPHL premier teams into like the Midwest NCDC teams, because everybody's getting a team. But in general, what I've been hearing, there's a lot of people that are not happy. And and this is away from the EHL folks like yourself, and I talked obviously with you. I have correspondence with Neil. That's basically from the EHL. But outside of you guys, like there's people all over that are just shitting on this. The fact that, first of all, with how things allegedly shook out. And again, I asked, I asked Murray Gunty, who is the interim commissioner of the USPHL. I just asked him point blank on Twitter, like, like how did this all happen? Like, he's putting out statements that he typically does with everything where he doesn't think it's going his way or he can capitalize on it, then he's gonna make a comment, and he does it, and that's fine. But for some stuff, I'm gonna start calling you out on it, like I did when he started spouting off about Chicago hockey and how this and that. So anyhow, um I asked him point blank, like, where are you going? Like, where's this information coming from? And it was more of a, with these teams defecting and why they were defecting, and alleged like money was being, like the teams were being held ransom and such. And I did, I asked him, where is it? Like, where is this factually happening? And it basically came out to like, well, just trust, like he didn't say it, but it felt like just trust me, bro. Like I'm being super honest about it. Like, you know, I don't have any literature or anything I can share or put out there, but basically it's just my word. And no offense, we live in a society where like you need to have the facts, like you need to put them out. I had a little bit more verbal back and forth, or not verbal, but messaging on live on Twitter for everybody else to read. And eventually Mr. Gunty decided that he was done with me and he was going to block me. So whatever, I don't care. If they want to act like a child, that's fine. That's his right. But I don't think I was saying anything out of line. I think some of the people that were getting involved in our discussion, I think, and who were much more blatant with their opinions, of disapproval, I think they were starting to. I think that's what really started to irk them. Um, Maybe it was just me being asking questions, but I think it was some of the other people that were just saying, "Oh, this is typical," whatever. So that's kind of really what I was seeing. I did get some people, actually in the background, actually one NCDC team who I will not name, And I know you're just gonna have to trust me, bro, on this. But they reached out to me and they gave me some information um about how their season went down last year. And it just seems like overall, and I'll get away from that. Overall, across social media, which take it for what it's worth, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of positivity involved in this. Now you say, and you said, um, you know, how do you, and I agree with you, how do you take three teams, move them out of one league, and put them into your new division of the NCDC, and they're pay to play. But the NCDC itself, every other team besides these three new teams are not pay to play. I mean, outside of maybe what their billet fee or something. I don't know. Um, how do you, I agree with you. How do you do that at a tier two? You're calling yourself tier two hockey. Now, again, that's USA Hockey's term for tier two is, you're not paying, everything's being covered. Not your scholarship, but your tuition's covered. But how do you make now? And again, I don't know how many are those three teams. Are there any other teams in their division?
Yes, yeah. So they're in the New England division. They're competing against teams that are free to play.
So how do you how is that competitive? Basically, what you're doing is you're just, from my standpoint, you're just taking one team. Or you're taking three teams just to take three teams, and put them in basically in your league and in your pocket. Because I mean, how do you afford? Not even afford. How can you have players pay on some of the teams and not on the others? It's just asinine to me. Like,
It's a great question, Trevor. And I do think that I think Murray Gunty's a very strategic operator. Like he's not a dunce. So I think if you look at the when this deal was announced, it was post the draft for the USPH or the NCDC. It was a post the NCDC draft. They acquired these franchises, and they weren't necessarily, certainly in the case of the Seacoast Spartans, he bought the rink and all the entities involved with the rink. So that's a little bit different than a voluntary move or an upward move, and to move from the EHL to the NCDC. That's a different beast. Axe Sports Group, which owns both the Railers and the Rangers, that was one acquisition. So they bought one organization, which was involved two teams. So it really, we're talking about, it's kind of a little convoluted there in terms of what that really means from a business transactional standpoint. However, if we look at like the timeline of events, their draft occurred a couple months prior. They acquired these organizations. They're putting them in this league on a first year basis. Now, what will that look like in 25, 26? I think the introduction of the pay to play at that level, they can't go back. Like they can't, like if pay to play, if that's going to be introduced this year, now they'll have a whole draft and a whole recruiting cycle come 25, 26. Well, they'll introduce the tier two pay to play model, which is successful in Canada. The CCHL is pay to play. The OJ is pay to play. The NoJ is pay to play. These are successful modes of operation in Canada. So why not introduce that in the States? And I think that when you're looking at a perspective of, if you're an organization like the South Shore Kings, you existed in the Eastern Junior Hockey League for 20 years,
Yeah.
right? And you were successful, and it was a pay to play tier 3 level. And the EJ, honestly, from 1993 to 2013 was a better league than the NA. It was. If you look at the
Oh,
NHL draft picks that came out of that league, it
look at
was a
the
better.
college players. I mean, yeah,
Oh
but
my
yeah,
god,
NHL, yes, for sure. Yes,
it was it was
100%.
a definitely. I mean, Jack Eichel, Charlie Coyle,
Hayes, yeah.
Hayes. I mean, you have Chris Kreider. Like they had better players. So now, if you go to pay to play, and you're a self-defined league, can that operate on the East Coast and be successful? Potentially, but you're also, as an operator, like, well, I was in the USPHL Premier from 2013 to 2017, and we were placing players in Division One hockey, a few, but then mostly in Division Two and Division Three. They're still placing the same players, but now they're getting no tuition.
Right.
That's not a good business move.
And
Like,
if I'm
the
right,
players are going to the same schools. Like, why did I know? Let's give a kid a free ticket, and he's going to the same schools that he was before. Like,
right.
they didn't elevate the league. The league is not elevated above what the EJ was. So, they made a strategic business move to kind of like push things under the rug a little bit for this year with a bigger plan in place for next year. And I think that's where they're going. And I think other leagues will probably follow suit, like, because their league where they stack up against other leagues, it's not all rose-colored glasses. Like, they're not, it's not a premium product like the USHL or even the NA. It's a tier 3 product. That's what it is.
No, and again, it's everyone kind of giving their own labels to what division there are because they're not in USA Hockey anymore, so they don't have to be self-defined. So I mean, are you under the assumption that the model is going to end up being pay to play for the NCDC, not this year, but the following?
I believe it will be. That's my opinion. So maybe I'm going to be sued. I don't know, but that's my opinion. There's some people who've reinforced that opinion. They've also issued a press release that for this season, there's no intention of going to a pay-to-play model in some of their divisions. But I bet you the Rangers, I mean, they're going to go, and the Railers, they'll be in that league. I mean, we did a compare and contrast. If you look on the Hockey Focus today, the Mountain Division for the NCDC had, out of the 5 teams, they had, I believe the number is 14 college commitments.
Yeah.
I mean, we have teams in our Eastern, and they're all Division 3. We have teams in the Eastern Hockey League that have more that one team than that whole division. And those kids are playing for free, and our kids are paying for that. So, like, what are you paying for? Like why not? I'd rather pay and have a guarantee that my kid could potentially go to school than get for free. And it's like buying a car, right? Buying a used car. If I can buy a Lexus for whatever, or I can buy a Yugo and not even make it off the fucking lot.
Right. I just think it's a real. I'm not fond of. First of all, I wasn't fond of, and again, I have notes outside of you, and yes, it's Neil. He's the commissioner. Like, okay, big deal, but it's not like we're BFFs or anything. Like, I don't, I talk to him maybe once or twice a year. The EHL is not paying for anything that we are saying right now. So I mean, again, so this is not like I'm just, the EHL, this, they're so this, and that. I don't understand how teams can pull out. It feels like they pulled out at the last minute and they jumped, which screws up a ton of shit, probably for you guys, whether it's, scheduling. Now you've got to, rework the schedules. And again, it's true. Well, it was just right before July. So it was like, what, end of June? I mean, it's not like this was done in May or you guys were given a heads up as a league. I mean, it was effective, and you guys found out not from the fucking teams, but from Twitter. Social media is how you guys found out that they were leaving. Like, that's not, to me, that's not the right way to do business.
It definitely is not. But I can tell you, Trev, I think that it was somewhat strategic. I think being post-draft makes a difference, right? If you're now getting drafted to a team that's going to be $10,000, or you're getting drafted into a free league, that's a big deal. So, like, that strategic timeline makes a difference. And I also think that the EHL has been positioned, we haven't really expanded like some of these other leagues. We've stayed relatively small. I think we were a really good league when we're between 16 and 18 teams. That's when we're really strong. And like 17, 18, when some of those teams left, and we brought in really good organizations like the Avalanche, the Seahawks, we got better. And then we even brought the Spartans in. We got better. When we get to about 22 teams, we're a little bit bloated because there's only so many college roster spots. I mean, you can look at, like, the NCDC introduced that Mountain Division. The kids aren't going anywhere. So, like, why, even if it's free to play, like, free to play, so I can eventually pay men's league next year.
Right. It's just sad because, now you've got it's going to be used as a recruiting tool for those teams that are pay to play, that the teams that left, because what's going to end up happening is they're going to say, yeah, you got to pay to play, but you're going to be playing in the NCDC against this top talent. Now, is the USPHL, are they saying that those three teams are NCDC, that the EHL is the same caliber as their NCDC? Because it feels like everyone's always made it seem, not everyone, but people have always made it seem like, oh, the top USPHL teams are equivalent to the EHL. Like that's the equivalency. Well, if you're pulling three teams out from the league, from the EHL, and they're going to go straight to your top division, what that tells me is you're saying either, and I would love for someone to answer this because they're fucked one way or the other. Because you can't just say, "Oh no, it's not equivalent," because then you're going to be like, "Oh, you know." So basically, what you're saying is the EHL is just as good as the NCDC. Is essentially what you're telling me, because you're taking talent and players now, unless they redo their entire rosters. But I wouldn't. I mean, it's it's a selling point. Of course, you might add a few more players. You always want to add better, talented players, but loyalty's a thing as well. But where are these? As I just said, I think that's going to be their selling point, to get players to come in and say, yeah, okay, so you're going to have to pay, but you're going to be playing in the NCDC. And you're going to be playing against, the top division for the USPHL, and college is this and college is that. I mean, it's going to be no different, but they're just going to use the NCDC as if it's propped up another level. And I think that's just shitty, because that's not fair to the kids. And most families probably I'm sure there'll be many families that don't even know, like, oh, we're paying, and these guys aren't. Like, come on.
Yeah. I agree with you. And I do think that, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors there for sure. There's going to be a lot of misinformation that's spread. I think that certainly in the case of the NCDC with their protected list, I mean, they can have a protected list of north of 60 players. You can have on a roster like I had in my article today, the Utah Outliers. They have a roster of 60 players who are active on their roster at the completion of the season, and they have one college commitment. That's giving you a 1.6% chance to make an NCAA roster according to those numbers.
And what is
So I
your
think
goal as a junior club?
absolutely to put players into college hockey. That's the only,
Move
that's
them
really
up.
should be the
Yeah.
primary goal. Absolutely. So I think that, yeah, they will use that as a marketing tool for sure. But I think a lot of kids, they're going to show up on day one of training camp, and they're going to be like, I paid my deposit. I still owe $8,000 to this deal or whatever it may be. I still owe money. I'm not sticking around with competing against these 80 players to
Yeah.
get in a lineup of 20 guys. I'm not sticking around. I'm going to go elsewhere.
Well,
So I think you're going to find a lot of that.
how do you handle trades?
Good question.
Those three teams only allowed to trade amongst themselves?
Good question, Trevor.
What happens if you get traded to one of those teams and nothing's really going back in return?
What happens if you're the top player on the Rangers and you're putting up a point a game and you still owe $5,000 on your tuition? You got a college commitment coming down the works. You look at maybe, let's say hypothetically, the Mercer Chiefs. They're in last place, but they're tuition free, and you can be like, I want to be traded to Mercer because I don't want to pay $5,000 more dollars. I'll play for them. I got my college commitment. I'm out of here. What happens then?
I think this is more. I think the biggest issue is that it's not been, outside of the little press releases that Maria's put out, that are, I mean, the USPHL, sorry, they've put out, they're not explaining much really of anything outside of, well, we're just going to do this on a trial basis just for these three teams. Like, but again, we just asked a ton of quite a few questions that, how do you explain it? And they haven't. So I think we're going to see a lot of horror stories. We're going to have a shit ton of horror stories. And I think some of the rats that are out there that are advisors are going to take advantage of, oh, these teams are now in the NCDC, and that's going to screw players over. And I think the GMs and the clubs are. And if I'm a team in that NCDC, I want to know, why do they get to collect money from their players and cover their overhead and we can't? I've got to go out and sell and get sponsors and sell the shit out of this. my team, so that I can fund and put a scholarship on these kids, but they don't have to? Like, what's this bullshit about? Like, how, I mean, what is the benefit? Because you're adding 3 teams? So is it just because you're filling out that region now, like that league, that division?
Oh, it's a
Like,
great point, Trevor. Imagine being the. I'm going to throw a name out there. Don't put any water to it. Imagine you're the Northern Cyclones or Twin City. Let me say you're this Twin City Thunder, right? Twin City Thunder.
yeah.
You just moved ranks from Northern Maine to Seacoast, New Hampshire, because you've been losing money, and now you're competing against a team that's going to be profitable in year one. You've been committed to the league for like 5 years, lost money every single year with the NCDC. Now a new guy comes on the block and he's making money.
Yeah.
It's going to make you say, like, where's my part of that? Unless there's a bigger plan down the road where everybody's going to make it's like hold water for this year because next year you can make some money.
Which, and again, my opinion, if you're setting something up like this, it was done last minute. We can already say it was done last minute. There's has not been any thought put out. And I think honestly, if you're that type of a league, you should have had something in place within that initial press release of we're doing this for the first year and this is how we're going to go in the future, because nobody knows. And again, we've got so many questions, and honestly, they're right now they are an easy target to shit on. And it's not like we're trying to shit on them. We're just being honest about what it looks like, because at the end of the day, we just want to see the kids move up and get quality, play in a quality league, And again, I got out of I did some stuff with Rochester, and then I did some stuff out, with um, the Blade, Steel County in the USPHL. And I think Nick Adamek does a fantastic job with his club out there. They're in the Premier Division. But I just couldn't continue to watch how some of these tier 3 teams operate. And this is not Steel County. They do a fantastic job. But some of these other ones, and again, it was kind of like a stalling thing. Like, oh, we're just collecting money and this and that. And we've heard the horror stories. So I know there's going to be more to come. I can't wait to report on it and talk about it. But at the end of the day, I really hope that shit gets figured out for the kids. So that, if you're going to put the NCDC out there and label it as tier 2, fine, whatever bullshit you want to call it. You can call it the NHL, -1. I don't give a shit. At this point, just make sure it's the kid that you're doing something right, because this is a league that is considered, by kids who don't really understand that they think it's a top end, that's the answer to the NA, outside of USA hockey. So, yeah, we'll be watching, and it'll be fun. But
Well, another person we've been watching a lot on social media is Mason Hackel. He's done Hockey Hacks Train 2.0. That's his Instagram handle. He's made a lot of videos, stirred a lot of kind of controversy early on in his postings. But he's got some interesting things to say, and we wanted to bring him on to get his feedback. So here's our interview with Mason Hackel. All right, here we have with us, hockey fans, Mason Hackel. He's a skills coach and personal trainer. He's running a company called Ability Training. It's a hockey training company, but also specializes in adult and physical performance. And he's created a lot of content and information on both Instagram and Twitter. And he's doing some really interesting stuff in the game of hockey. So welcome to the podcast, Mason. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me on.
Now, my first question, we just talked about a little bit about your name of your company, Hockey Hacks. That's what it's featured on Instagram. Can you give me a little bit about what the nature and the purpose of the company is, and what you're trying to do when it comes to skills coaching?
So it's basically to find these ability hacks that give people better performance, or give players better performance, that you wouldn't really think about in traditional training. And that's what really hit home for me when I was doing a bunch of training myself. Just kind of like, I'm trying to my mission is to try to create the system that I wish I had when I was 12 years old, that just wasn't the training that just wasn't there that I promote now. At least that's what I'm trying to put out. That's what I'm attempting to put out. And so like these little changes in cues, little changes like coaching cues, or the way that I interpret movement or think about movement, all those little areas, the general ability around hockey as a whole, and even just movement in general. That's what I go for. To kind of like give a fun fact about the name, like it is part of my last name. That's where it originally came up, because Hackel is my full last name, but Hack is also the point of the thing. And I found that there was no one else called Hockey Hack, so I was kind of like, okay, I'll go with that and just take it for
It's
myself.
actually shocking no one has that. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it would have been taken by now, and it originally it was by someone who basically has no followers. So I was kind of like, why can't I have this? So it's kind of like I had to put some underscores in it, but like basically no company has that name or anything like that. So I'm just like, all right, I'll take it. And you were saying like you're surprised too, and that's basically for the same reason. It just makes sense for a business and for a mission standpoint that you would have that name. It's great alliteration. It winds up together, and it actually gets to the point as well, that we're just trying to find these little like movement hacks, ability hacks, training hacks that give people and players better performance. And it doesn't matter if you're just starting out or if you're a seasoned like hockey player, as all professional athlete, or college player too. That doesn't matter to me. What they're at. In my opinion, everyone has something to work towards. So that's where it all came together for me.
So Mason, where did you give us a little bit of background about your career, and then like any type of like specific training you've done, post, let's say, post high school, in college, just so that everyone, listeners at home, could kind of understand where you're coming from as a player. I know you mentioned you're trying to build, and I give you credit for that, because that's, I think, what a lot of us coaches want to do, is give back and teach the kids and players what we didn't get when we were younger. So I mean, just to kind of put a little bit more info into where you're coming from, could you give us a little bit of that background, and then kind of where you're leading up to now?
Yeah, so I started with roller hockey in San Jose. That was where everything came together for me. The Sharks, actually, like watching 2008 Game 7 versus Calgary, that was what got me into hockey first, and then watched the season after that. Asked my parents to hey, I want to do what they're doing, because like at the time I was trying out a bunch of different sports, and gymnastics, soccer, baseball, basketball, and YMCA, all the works like that. Settled on hockey just because like it was mostly from that Game 7, and I don't know exactly what appeal I had at the time, as I was 8 or so. So like the next season I went to roller hockey, tried that out. I was like, okay, that's cool. Continued recreationally for a solid 4 years, got into travel roller hockey around 12. Actually started out as a goalie for they were called the Silicon Valley Quakes at that time. I don't know if they still exist. That continued for a solid 3.5 years, and then finally got into single A ice with the Junior Sharks, 16U team. That team went on to win the state championship. I did okay. I was like middle of the pack scoring wise. I wasn't like leading or anything. I was in like, what was it? You play like 40 to 45 games. I had like 20 to 25 points. I don't remember what I had exactly. My league prospects will probably say it, but and then continued single A after that, played a little bit of double A. So I didn't, by the time I was 18, I didn't really have anything, going for me. And I did some training, just because it's like, you have to, you're told that you have to do extra in order to catch up. And that's what I did. I went with the trainer who trained all of us, did extra time with him whenever I could. Although I wouldn't say high school was the best of times for me to make progress, just because like that was a period of extreme depression for me. But once I was done with high school and youth hockey, went to junior hockey, played, moved to 30 minutes outside of Philadelphia, New Jersey. It was actually at I learned it was Johnny Gaudreau's home rink in Sewell, New Jersey. They currently have an NCDC team and an EHL franchise there. They have a few things going for them. They're doing very well. So I played junior hockey over there before they had those renovations. We started in the USPHL. Also did, like, I was mediocre. I only got in like 40 or 50 games. It was basically like 3 goals, 2 assists, 5 points in that year. And then the next year, moved to a couple of different teams. Ended up in the EHL in Worcester. Only played 20 games there, got 0 points. So it's kind of like that was the end of my junior career. And I actually had a disagreement with the GM at the time, just because I didn't agree with their style of training, which is kind of like a foreshadowing to come forward. Is I didn't agree with what they were doing with their training. It was the first year of that program. Players weren't getting better or like committed to the process or anything like that. And it was like, I had this big difference or big shift in my training this summer before and into that season before Worcester. I told the coaches and the GM about it. I was like, hey, this is like changing me. Or at least I couldn't communicate that exactly at the time, but what I was trying to say was that, hey, this stuff was changing me. This is going to work for our team that's losing a lot. I don't like that fact. I know I'm not contributing like I should, but if we're to truly develop these players, we have to look at the way that they move. Whether that's the kinesiology of them, if you want to go really deep into that, I don't think you need to. But if you want to like dive into their like general ability, I think that's what we need to do instead of focusing on systems and positional play. Because in my opinion, even at the time, I was like, even though I didn't communicate it because I didn't know how to talk back then, it was that hockey ability actually makes the system play a lot easier, because that's the foundation for your movement. We're not robots. So, or even like chessboard pieces. That's not the game that we're playing. It uses n elements of human physical ability, and we need to train that in order to make our system plays easier. If you can't get to the puck in a faster first 5 steps versus your opponent, you have to throw systems out the window because your ability simply isn't there. Whether that's that could be reaction time, but I take the approach that it's actually the way that we train, and the way that our body's set up. So after that disagreement, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna train and coach, because I was starting to see like really great results with the way that I was training. Just for the record, guys, I've had major influence from the likes of Jason Yee and Ben Patrick. Jason runs Train 2.0 Hockey. Ben Patrick runs ATG. I met Jason first, and then got to meet up with Ben. But I met Jason that off season before I went into my last year of junior hockey, and then basically, I think what happened there, why I didn't like get enough results into that last year of junior hockey, was I only spent 6 months on the new style of training. So when I progressed that into the next offseason, even though I was basically done playing competitively at that point, and COVID shut down all the rinks, but I still did some training on my Mars blades out in the trails right by my billet house, and then continued my training when the rinks opened back up. Moved around the country a little bit more, ended up in Michigan. That's where I'm at now. Continued to train, and just slowly improve my movement. But
so Mason, not to interrupt you too much, but I love this backstory. This is great, and this is a lot of information for a lot of coaches and administrators. I actually, I don't know if you know, but I coach in the EHL, and I've coached against Worcester a bunch, and they were very different, like very robotic style. Like they have righties got to play on the right wing, and left wing's got to play on the left wing, and it's almost playing like a 1975 hockey. I get it. Like
what team are you with?
I'm part owner with Tim Kuhns of the New England Wolves.
Very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know exactly what you're talking about. And if they don't bring in 75 players a year, they're probably not going to have the success that they have. And I can openly say that now, Trevor, right? Now that
yes.
now that we're out from the EHL. But getting back to like what you're talking about with those athletic movements, I've seen some of your videos, and you spell out like some different skill. I want to give you a little more color to what you're talking about when you replicate professional players and their movements. This is a little bit of a new approach, than kind of like team structured practices when you're dealing with individual skill work. Hockey's a 5-on-5 game though. So how do you communicate when and where to your athletes to use such movements? Because if it was a 1-on-1 game, that'd be one thing, but if it was a 5-on-5 game, that's a little bit different. So how do you communicate that?
The thing is, it shows up in 1-on-1 situations and 5-on-5 situations, because all we need to do is just look at the film of guys like Connor McDavid, guys like Sidney Crosby, guys like Nathan McKinnon. The best players do those specific movements or mechanics, whatever you want to call them, at their specific times in games. And like a case like Crosby's, he'll use 10 and 2s and mohawks and shuffles when he's puck protecting. And then what we can do first is we can isolate individual mechanics first. There's tons of other examples with other players, but the first thing is that you isolate the single individual mechanics. From there, once you get good at those, once you reach a level of standard, but once you reach a standard level with those in relation to the standards that the best players have set, the modern best players have set, I should specify, then you can stack mechanics on top of each other, because yes, they don't just do movements in isolation, they do a multitude of movements in isolation. So the point of the stacking is to replicate that same situation in without the need of a game setting, let's say. And so that improves your movement overall. Once you get good at the single movements, and then you stack the movements on top of each other. That's what I would say.
Does that include, like, you also coach like playing away from the puck? Playing away from the puck is a really essential skill to getting more pucks on your stick and getting in more scoring opportunities. And how do you teach that?
There's a little bit of that. There is a little bit of mechanics that give you an advantage. Like Jason calls it a Jalmerson flow, where you're going backwards, and you're basically playing defense. And yes, like the puck carrier is attacking you, and it could maybe not be like away from the puck, but also if you are in these other situations where you're on the complete other side of the where the puck is on the rink, all you have to do, honestly, you could just look at players in isolation again and see what they're doing. McDavid always glides. He's never like stopping and starting. He's always doing some sort of glide, which is why he's able to like then accelerate once he gets into or at least what people see as an acceleration, I should say. But he's like doing that like many steps beforehand. Because he's never like stopping and starting. So I would say like just watching players like that in isolation, even like away from the puck, because if you have an isolated view on them, they're going to touch the puck and also not touch the puck, and you're able to see a little bit of their positional play away from that. Now, I'm not an expert in positional play. I want to be very clear about that. I'm an expert in movement with like dissecting what these players, how they move, and then adapting that for a human body, because I believe that you can replicate 90 to 95% of like anybody's movement because we're all human. That means
So when you say,
I hope so.
yeah, I mean, yeah. When you say you're an expert, where have you, like, again, as I said in the previous question was like experience wise, you gave us great about the background of your playing career, college, any type of courses, like, do you have any certifications and stuff? Because again, what you're teaching, some of it, I feel like, is a little bit of what I would say Belfry does, with replicating players, and, he's using certain, key, skills or isolated skills, as we could say, and then he stacks them. But outside of, just, a high school degree, maybe a college degree, do you have any other training to kind of just say, yes, I've taken part in this, I've done this, I've done that, or I've been certified for this or that?
Honestly, it's just thousands and hours of film. I don't like this could get into a different subject real quick. I don't think you need like a degree or a specific certification in different things. It does help, but going and looking at the data, or any type of data yourself, and getting feedback from others who have also looked at the data, or looked at that specific data, and what other people have studied. I'm just standing on the shoulders of giants. That's all. So I've looked at like Jason Yee. He has a degree in kinesiology. He's looked at movement specifically that way.
I've seen his stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Like honestly, at a time, I was kind of like, yeah, I'm basically him, but I have an M instead of a J in my name. And I did, but I also didn't have the college stuff or the kinesiology degree or anything. I didn't even go to college. I just studied these people's movement, honestly. And then I also looked at other people who were studying movement in different sorts of ways. So like I've taken hints from like just many other people who have looked at whether that's like injury prevention or bulletproofing, and then that's setting up your body's hardware to then play your sport, which is the software. You can think of it that way, or like people who just go into traditional weight training as well. Like the more tools you have available to you in movements, like that's basically all that I've looked at. I've tried to like access as many tools as I can, and just looked at a bunch of different things that people are doing, tried it out for myself, whether or not I think it's stupid or not, and just like and then I slowly cut things down as to what I felt, and also got feedback from whether that they're my own clients or other people and other coaches working on their own clients doing a similar system to me. Because like it's not just for example, it's not just Jason at Train 2.0. There's also a bunch of other coaches, and they're growing, and it's also Ben Patrick with ATG. It's like they have like 500 coaches or so, and then he's had like over 100,000 people cycle through his online platform that they've used. So like he's gotten a bunch of case studies, and I think that's the key thing here, is that you have a case study as something to pull off of. Yes, it's an anecdote technically, but like if you're doing something intentional, if you're doing an intervention that's intentional, then that's basically has as much ground, I believe, as like just something that's in the Harvard textbooks, which, by the way, they don't really update as quickly as like new data like this. It takes like 20 to 30 years for them to cycle through like different things. Knees over toes not in the textbooks, for instance, in like big colleges or things like that, whatever you want to call it.
Jason, Mason, you mentioned Ben Patrick and knees over toes, and I love that. I first got introduced to him on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he was really enlightening. And I was at the time, I was doing a lot of workouts that were kind of more like what I've always kind of done. I'm 44 years old, so my knees are starting to hurt and all that kind of stuff. And I incorporated some of the movements that I've seen on some of his YouTube videos. And I do think that there's a tremendous amount of value to what he's doing. And my knees have felt better over the last, I'd say like 12, 16 months.
That's very good.
Partially because of those workouts. And now what are you doing that, he works with obviously a lot of athletes, but what are you doing? Is it specific to hockey with incorporating some of his ideas and concepts? Are you doing a proprietary product that is your own, but with that same kind of philosophy? Like, what are you doing that is a little bit different, or are you kind of replicating what he's doing?
Yeah. So his program ATG is basically a set of principles. I believe in the movements and exercises that he uses, but I don't program them the way that he has on his apps. It's all custom tailored, not just to myself, but all my clients and people who ask for the service. And it's tailored to also their specific goals and what their and how much time they have. So Ben is kind of like the marketer. He like promotes it to everyone. He gets, because he's the best at it out of all the other coaches. You think of knees over toes, you think of Ben Patrick and knees over toes guy.
I can't dunk yet though. I did beat my son in basketball today. I beat him 15-8. He's currently 8 years old. But I don't dunk yet though. I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks maybe I can dunk.
Oh, those 8, that's kind of scary.
Stuff them.
You still have like there's a 50-year-old named Fedor Ziani who's only 5'11" and he's dunking still. Like, so
he's ahead of me.
You have a lot of time. Yeah, you have a lot of time to regain that ability. But
how many clients are you working with right now?
I got about 30.
Is that just for off ice, or how many of those include on ice as well?
They're part of. There's some people in different tiers. So some of them ask for like online coaching. Some of them ask for like me to fly out or meet them in person and to train them, which is kind of both an internship basis and an actual package that I sell. And some of it's just basic membership too. So they'll have access to a bunch of programs or workouts that I've written up over the years, and they'll use it for themselves. They have complete app access that way. And it's both for online clients and just general membership. They'll have access to the off ice workouts and on ice workouts that I use. So,
how many flights have you taken? How many people have actually flown you out? I'm curious on that one.
I with me basically just starting like 7 months ago, I've had two clients take from that. Yeah.
Hey, it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
That's a start.
Yeah. Now tell me about you had a workshop recently. Tell me about that a little bit.
Oh yeah. It was a small one. And I got another one coming up, but that's for my just personal training background. Or clients that I used to train at my commercial gym. But yeah, it was small. It was like only 5 people, but it was a great success. It was my first time hosting a camp like that, or a workshop, whatever you want to call it. We had basically 45 minutes to an hour of like off ice simulation, then on ice, then film in the locker room, and then a quick, albeit I much prefer like a gym setting rather than bringing out equipment out of my car to make them work out. But, it was good for the setting that it had, and bringing a couple of people who I've worked with for a solid 6 months at that point together, just meeting up with everyone. So I had a blast. Everyone else looked like they had a blast too. They had a lot of takeaways, and still in touch with a bunch of them too. So because they for both the membership and online coaching respectively. And what I'm just trying to create a community of people who are like-minded and want to just make themselves better. The clients are more just like, hey, Mason, tell me what to do. And then I give them the plan like that. But I also train myself because like I believe in the expert model effect where I have to be good at the stuff in order to teach it. And so that's why I train currently, and it just feels good too. So
that's a little bit different than the Worcester Railers model. No. That's an inside joke, Trev. If you ever met the owners of the Worcester Railers,
look,
I
the championship.
don't think you'd want to get. I don't think you'd want to get any fitness tips from them.
No. I agree. But to give them credit, I saw they won the championship recently. I want to congratulate them on that. It doesn't take away from my experience with them personally, but they did a great job. Obviously, because they wouldn't have won otherwise.
For sure. Now, Mason, you've grown really fast. Like, you have a huge amount of followers in a short period of time. Like you said, you've only been doing this 7 months. Where do you see yourself? This will be my last question. Then, Trevor, if you got another question, but where do you see yourself going with this program? Where do you see yourself in the next couple of years? What is your ambitions for, your hockey training company and your physical training company?
Oh, pretty big. I have a few options like open to me. So I was like, I just bought a house now and I'm 24. And
Congratulations.
Congrats, man.
People are telling me how crazy that is and how unique that is. And I'm kind of like, but things were just set up for me to have this too. Regardless of that it was nuts and it is nuts still. And I'm in my garage. I built a gym in here too. I want kind of those things set up. There's a few pathways that I could go down. I could either create more of these home gyms. I could have a performance center with a small rink inside of it. That way, like, people are doing that type of training, and then I could, expand it out to multiple locations. That way it reaches out to more people. There's plenty of options I could go down. But I gotta make sure that, place number one is profitable, and then I can expand from there, because priority means one. I got to start with one place and build it out. It's my opinion from what I've seen that I think hockey needs the way that people train hockey, the way that players train, needs to change. And so that's basically what I'm promoting. I don't think I would have a following if people also didn't believe that to some degree. And like there were things that I am taught now that I wasn't taught before, in particular to movement, that just have completely unlocked me, like, and become the player. Sorry, not the player, because I'm not playing, but like, having the abilities that I have now is something that, like, look, I never thought that that would have happened, based on my history, my garbage elite prospects and all of that. Like, that shouldn't be the case, that I should have this level of ability where people are questioning if I ever played pro or not, or if I'm in the AHL, which did happen actually. An insider joke from Train 2.0, someone asked one of the managers there through email if I was an AHL player. I think they got the shark pants confused and whatnot, just because, like, I'm a San Jose native, and I still have a liking for them. And then I'm like, oh, here's some like Pro Sharks pants on Pro Stock Hockey. I'm gonna buy them, and they fit my size. Albeit some people say they're too big, but I don't. They fit perfectly fine. And then, like, I get a comment like that, and it's kind of like, with everything that happened with me, how sucky I was going into junior hockey, and even how I exited too, to have a comment like that is kind of like, I have something going on here. And so that's kind of what I want to continue. I think, all I wanted to do was just play and move and, just be in some way, shape, or form just like the best players.
No, I guess so. For my final question, I guess, would be, and again, I'm, we talk about the social media aspect of it, and I've seen your videos as well. There, I guess some of them you could say is a different brand, a different style of getting people's attentions. Especially coaches. You know, I mean, you brought up the elite prospects thing, so I'm sure you're well aware that there was, those, videos and stuff, and people were kind of just like, oh, what, who's this guy? Well, who's he to say this and that? What are your thoughts about all that kind of stuff?
You know, the first step to success is people hating on you.
Okay.
I think that's all I have to say about that. So like, I say something outlandish, and then people have a response to it. It's kind of just like, for me, it's kind of like whatever. I don't care what they think. Now, Ben Patrick has adopted a unique approach to the social media part, where I don't know how to describe it. It's like very inclusive, or he doesn't shit on people. Like, I think that's the thing there, is that he doesn't publicly talk badly about people. He will, like, behind the scenes, because I'm one of the few people who has like personal connections to him. But like, as far as like a public image and why he's had the success that he has, that could be like a major factor. So I've been shifting towards that, because I think that hits home with people a lot more, and not being someone like super outlandish. Although I enjoy the controversy a little bit. There's something that's a little addicting about that. I have to admit. But
So, I mean, there's definitely, I mean, there is a large contingent that, for some of the statements you've made and some of the things you've done and such, they've made their voices heard, across social media.
yeah,
I mean,
I don't regret it, but I'm not continuing it. I think that's the way I'll say that.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, especially, Coach Tribble and I are both, USA Hockey certified coaches. We do a ton of different, readings and ton of different stuff and all that kind of stuff. And I think that there are coaches out there that, don't get me wrong, there are plenty of old school coaches that don't change. They do the same practice, same 5 drills throughout their whole entire practice. But you do have a lot of coaches out there that are trying to get better, and I think I will say that from some of those earlier videos. And I mean, you're admitting that, okay, you're changing, but it was kind of like a shot at just the coaches in general. And I didn't think that, again, you can make any claims you want. I mean, it's absolutely up to you. Um, but there are coaches out there that are doing things differently too.
Yeah,
We're not all here just to be,
at the time,
dinosaurs.
yeah. At the time, I wasn't seeing it, and that's why I said that. But like, I do see that coaches try, like that's for sure. And then if they fall in line with the extra model effect, where they also do the work that they align up with. Like, some people disagree with that, and that's perfectly fine. Because like, look, there is a point to like, what's the phrase, like, teaching what you can't do, or something like that. There's some point to that, but at the same time, you get a much deeper understanding. But when you're teaching the thing that you can also do, if teaching is the deepest form of learning, teaching what you're doing at the same time that you're teaching it, or whatever you want to call that, I think is even deeper. I think that's a layer even deeper. So I would encourage coaches to adopt that, and to focus more on the fact that movement, the way that you move on the ice, that is so foundational to everything else that you do in your game. And kind of like what I said at the beginning too, that I actually, I don't think I said it was neglected, but I do think it's neglected to a point. I'm just trying to drive attention to that point, that it's like, hey, focus on the movement first. That's what I tried to communicate with my excuse me, my junior team as well. Obviously didn't have the words for it at the time. That's why I attempted to communicate on social media. Did it in the way that I did it. Now
You're doing something right. And hey, I'll tell you, I'll be the first person to tell you, I don't give a shit what your elite prospects look like, because I've seen a lot of coaches who got NHL credentials that can't coach, their way out of a fucking whatever. So, don't get discouraged by that. I mean, it's more or less just, you're doing what you love. You're trying to do the best you can, and for the players, and as you said, I do appreciate what you said was that you wanted to make sure that they were getting what you didn't get as a kid. And I think that's the most important for all coaches that are, and again, I mean, kudos for you for that. And again, your stuff, might be a little different than what everyone else is doing, but who knows? We'll hopefully we'll see here soon what some of these results start to look like here. Because I know we only caught you at 7 months, so.
No, for sure. I should clarify too. Stuff like the social media presence and the actual business of it is 7 months. I've been coaching people for 5 years.
Okay.
I first started with Train 2.0, and I kind of did it off and on, but this is the point where I'm doing it intensively, and I'm also doing the social media presence intensively too. So it's kind of like it was set up beforehand.
Okay. Well, for sure. I mean,
and now it's time to expand off of that. So it's like in some ways it didn't come out of nowhere, but in some ways I did. Like I don't know. It's the way that things like assembled themselves. Like I can't really explain it. But I do think that the presence that I have, the following that I have is a sign that, hey, like what the message is here resonates with a lot of people, and like my aim is to continue that and to see basically how far it goes.
Well, Mason, I give you a ton of credit. I think that you definitely opened some eyes and maybe changed some people's perspectives, and certainly you got a lot of eyeballs on what you're doing. So you're doing. I'd say keep going. Good job, and congratulations on your early success. And we wish you a ton of success in the future.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
All right, Trev. So we just concluded our interview with Mason. Once again, we thank Mason for coming on. I think that it takes a lot of courage. A young guy, 24 years old, trying to start out in the hockey business, trying to do something different and unique. And I give him a lot of credit because he's put himself out. He stepped out on kind of a ledge a little bit to kind of build his business and build his practice. And we, as young coaches, we all go through different learning curves and kind of figure things out. And he's kind of finding his voice and seeing what works for him. And we really appreciate him for coming on the podcast. What kind of some things you took from the interview, Trev?
I mean, definitely Mason likes to talk about hockey, talk about it, the different stuff, the isolation and the training, and the type of training he does. Look, we both know that Mason, that his social media stuff it's been dumped on a little bit, quite a bit. And that was kind of why I made that a little bit more of a pointed question there at the end of letting him know, like, hey, you and I are coaches that care. Like we're trying to get better. And, some of the stuff is just kind of feels like it's a shot at the coaches. And, you know, so he has gotten probably his fair share. And I think it sounds like off of what he said, he's learning a little bit more from it. I don't know if it's at the speed that I would say could be, but it is what it is. I give him props because, he's out there putting himself out there. He's doing things. It sounds like he's got a few different avenues. It is very easy to, dump on somebody. But it is a lot harder to try and put yourself out there and do something. I do know that, from my own experiences trying to be a director of a youth club. What did I learn really? I, I, I guess I would say, I think that was one of Mason's probably first couple interviews, maybe. Because we did go down some long roads there, tangent wise. It's no knock against him. I mean, he's just trying to be provide as much advice as he can. I think it seems like he's passionate about it. He's based on what he said about, all the studies that he's looked at and this and that. Like, again, the kid's passionate about it. I don't know if I would have had, the balls at 22 to be doing what he's doing. And I don't know if I'd be able to take some of the hacks that people are taking. No pun intended, hacks, but are taking at him. I'm very interested to see how things go for him moving forward. Train 2.0 has been around for quite a while. Jason Yee's been putting out videos for a while. I do remember seeing those. Some of the stuff that he says he does, like the stacking and stuff. I mean, again, I've heard Daryl Belfry say the same thing, and he does his own stuff the same kind of way. Watching players, this and that. But I'm also of the theory that one size doesn't fit all. Just because McDavid does this doesn't mean that it's going to work for every kid. I think kids, it goes back to, I think there needs to be a foundation set and then you're building upon that. And it sounds like he's kind of at that point where he's building off the foundation is what he's looking at. Because it didn't sound like he was working with anybody, young players, like super young. Maybe he is, maybe he's not. But I mean, I guess I'll give him, credit where credit's due, and just that he's putting himself out there, and you know, appreciate him coming on. What about you, Coach? What did you think?
I think a couple things. Number one, I think actually, and I know this is going to sound weird, but maybe not what he would want, but I think actually him working with young kids would be fantastic. Like him working with a squirt team or a peewee team, where you do have the puck on your stick a little bit longer because it's a full ice sheet in those situations, so you have a little more time and space because the players are smaller. I think that, and then he can demonstrate, like he showed that he can demonstrate these drills. I think actually him working with that age group would be tremendous. Like he could potentially have a really great impact on younger kids. And I always think, and I think we've talked about this before, that some of the best coaches should be working with the mites and squirts, because if they don't have a good foundation, and if the best coaches are just working with the junior kids, well, I mean, the impact you can make on an 18-year-old is way less than the impact you can make on a 9, 10, 11-year-old. So I think that maybe, him,
That's why we're coaching squirts.
Yeah, I'm coaching a squirt team next year.
That's
for sure.
That's why we are. Yeah,
absolutely.
Sorry.
Coaching my 2015s. I can't wait.
Shh, I was gonna pretend that your kid wasn't on the team. Come on, let's go, Coach. Sorry, go back to
no worries. Now the next thing, I think that he also, I do agree with him. I think that, we talked to Neil Breen, I think it was episode 29, and he was talking about stuff he's doing with strength and conditioning with Omaha, and the utilization of one leg at a time, and using lower body power movements and different things like that. That I see a lot in some of the concepts that he's teaching with that ATG and Ben Patrick stuff. Far too often I see hockey coaches or strength coaches using like football movements, and certainly what he's doing is not football movements. They're more athletic movements. So I agree with him completely on that. What I would say is, like, as we talked about before, like, you get involved with coaching, and I think at his age, I was definitely an assistant coach. I was I was an assistant coach for a long time, and I was a sponge. I wanted to learn, and I want to absorb and get in more information. And that's how I developed my voice, because I acquired a bunch of different voices from other people and made it my own voice. And there's value to that. And I think, like, if you skip over that process, sometimes you don't always have the best results.
No, and I agree with you on that point, because it is, it is important to hear what people are saying, and because just because you're teaching skills doesn't mean you shouldn't know what players are doing. And you made a great point about asking him, what do you do with the players that are, away from the puck? Like, what are you teaching them? And like, it seems like what he's teaching on the ice, from what he said, and it never really came out that, I mean, he never denied that, so it never really came out that, oh yeah, it was different. Like, let me rephrase this. It never came out where he mentioned like he was teaching them different things outside of where he was talking about like McDavid's and always kind of gliding around. Well, like, it seems like everything that he's teaching them is more when you have the puck on your stick and those types of situations, which you and I know in a game, if in your shifts, maybe 5%, not even 3% of your shift is the puck going to be actually on your stick. So that one was, I think you can learn a lot still from being a regular coach. anything's going to actually help his business probably because that's how you're going to pick up clients. But, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I mean, again, he's young, he's learning, he's putting himself out there. You know, that's kind of basically what I got for him.
Yeah, I mean, using video and comparing contrasting with kids can be really powerful. Kids can really if they see, I mean, I remember doing that. Like I remember watching Don Cherry videos and like,
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna blow up a kid today. I want to Scott Stevens a kid today, So
Yeah.
like I remember watching those, those videos, and then you get that mind's eye, you put it in there, then you try to like do that on the ice in a game. So there's so much value to that, and especially if you can make that really quick by doing that within a with your iPhone, or doing that when you're on the ice with a kid, there's so much value to that. But like you said, playing without the puck, that's why like there's skill sessions and there's team practices, and they're two different beasts entirely. Like your skill sessions are how you develop your own individual game, your play with the puck, but your team setting, that's where you develop that play without the puck. And as you said, I mean, 98% of the game is play without the puck. And
Right.
that's really, really critical to a player's development.
Again, so I mean, you know what? He took the invitation. He came on, so I give him kudos to that. I'm still waiting for the I Train Hockey guy to fucking show up on the show, but that's probably just a wish list dream out there. But
bucket list.
Bucket list, yeah. When I blew out the candles on my birthday, it didn't happen. So, but no.
What was your birthday, Trev? Did I miss your birthday?
That was that was back in May. So,
buddy, sorry, man. Sorry.
okay.
Happy birthday.
You gave me your gift, which is excellent, by the way. I've made my way through it. Coach Trimble just released his own book here, his hockey concepts, from learn to skate all the way up to the junior level, and I enjoyed it. It was
oh, good. Thanks.
Read again, some of the stuff we've already talked about, so I mean it wasn't, but I definitely would highly recommend it for anybody out there. But yeah, so that was my gift. Thank you. So now I just have to write a book and give it to you for your birthday.
Sign me up, Trev.
Yours will be in the young adult, or not young adult. Yours will be in the adult section. Mine will be in the explicit section. Like,
yeah, long as I don't have to go through like one of those curtains at a VHS store.
Yeah, that's where my book will be right before the curtain. So you can actually, yeah. But
be at my bedside, my son will pick it up, be like, Dad, who's Coach Trevor?
Yeah. What is this TDC tells all? What is this about? Oh man. Oh God. But yeah, no, I mean it's that was great. And yeah, so again, thanks Mason for coming out. We greatly appreciate it. Coach, you got anything else?
No, I think we got a couple more, maybe kind of slowly build towards the season. We got a couple more episodes here in the summer months, and then we'll hit full steam ahead. A lot of stuff going on with the Hockey Focus. I think we're gonna have a good couple months, especially with this USPHL, NCDC, EHL, all this stuff kind of going on. So keep staying in tune to the Hockey Focus, and we're gonna have a lot of content for you.
Yeah, definitely. If there's anyone out there that is looking to write anything hockey related, feel free to let us know, or Josh Grusko, or our emails on the site. Always looking for people to write about anything hockey. Again, it's not just junior hockey, it's all hockey. So yeah, no, definitely, Coach. It was great catching up, and I think that might be a wrap for our episode here.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me on, Trev. It was good. Good night.
Yeah. So, well, episode 15 is in the books. So, I'm Trevor DiCarlo.
Andrew Trimble.
And we will catch you guys on the next episode.